Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counter-Spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Western Adventure, Fort Laramie, starring Raymond Burr from 66 years ago today, October 7th, 1956, and the Galvanized Yankee. And thank you for joining us on this Friday. It's the 7th day of October, 280th day of the year, 85 days left till we get to the end of the year. Christopher Columbus missing Florida on this date in 1492 when he changed course. He ended up in the Bahamas. Explorer Cabrillo discovered Catalina Island off the California coast in 1542. The Stamp Act Congress convened in New York on this date in 1765. Americans beat the British in the Battle of Second Saratoga on this date in 1777. And more wars. The Battle of Kings Mountain, American Patriot Militia defeating Loyalist irregulars led by British Colonel Patrick Ferguson in South Carolina. In 1816, the first double-decker steamboat, the Washington, arrived in New Orleans. It was on this date in 1868 Cornell University opened. Their initial student enrollment 412, the most of any American university to that date. The first radio station hookup on this date in 1922 as Newark's WNJ and Schenectady's WGY linked up to broadcast the World Series. Germany demanded that all Jewish passports be stamped with the letter J on this date in 1938, and Germany invaded Romania 2 years later on this date in 1940. U.S. and British government announced the establishment of the United Nations in 1942. Japan executed 100 American civilian prisoners on Wake Island in 1943. U.S. forces crossed the 38th parallel in Korea on this date in 1938. The far side of the moon was seen for the first time on this date in 1959, compliments of Russia's Luna 3. The second Kennedy and Nixon debate, where they discussed Cold War foreign policy in the second of four debates. It would be 3 years later that President Kennedy signed ratification for the Partial Test Ban Treaty, 1963. Also on that date, Hurricane Flora hit Hawaii and the Dominican Republic. 7,000 people killed. Let's see, it was on this date in 1984, NFL running back Walter Payton broke Jim Brown's rushing record.
2nd and 9. Payton. He's got it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Walter Payton has just set a new National Football League career rushing record.
It means a lot to me today because not only did the offensive line play as hard as they could, but we also put points on the board, what we've been trying to do. The win is the key thing.
Tim Ryan with the call on CBS. Peyton finished his career with 16,726 running yards. He would unfortunately die at the age of 45 in 1999, liver disease. Fox News Channel formed on this date in 1996. Yum Brands founded on this date in 1997, then as Tricon Global Restaurants. Pizza Hut, KFC, Taco Bell spun off from Pepsi. The U.S. and Britain launched airstrikes against Taliban positions and Osama bin Laden's training camps in Afghanistan on this date in 2001. Bin Laden praising God for the September 11 terrorist attacks in a videotaped statement airing on the Arab satellite station Al Jazeera. Governor Gray Davis recalled on this date in 2003, replaced by the will of the voters by Arnold Schwarzenegger. In the wake of Hurricane Matthew, 800 death toll rising to on this date in 2016. Passing away on this date in history, Edgar Allan Poe, The inventor of the modern air conditioner, Willis Carrier, passing away on this date. Tenor and actor Mario Lanza, baseball player, manager Leo "The Lip" DeRocher, and Carolyn Brady on Days of Our Lives, Peggy McKay, all passing away on this date. Today is the birth date of Andy Devine.
Hey, look, it's Ringo.
Hiya, Buck. How's your folks?
Oh, just fine, Ringo, except my grandfather came up.
Didn't expect to see you riding shotgun on this run.
From the motion picture stagecoach, Andy Devine, born on this date in history. Vice President Henry Wallace, born on this date. Muslim leader Elijah Muhammad. Singer Vaughn Monroe, actress June Allison, and singer Al Martino, all born on this date in history. Happy birthday number 79 to Oliver North. John Cougar Mellencamp, 71 today. Putin celebrates his 70th birthday today. Cellist Yo-Yo Ma, 67. Contemporary Christian singer Michael W. Smith, 65. Simon Cowell, 63 today. Tony Braxton, Unbreak My Heart. What a wonderful singer. Tony Braxton, 55. Pro wrestler Malaya Hosaka, still doing some wrestling, albeit on a limited schedule, but hey, she's 53. Also, the man known as Rhino in wrestling, Terry Guerin, is 47 today. Back to acting from Mean Girls and the Notebook, Rachel McAdams is 44. And singer-songwriter Louis Capaldi is 26. Those just a few of the people celebrating the 7th day of October as their birthday, and if this happens to be your birthday...
Hi, we're the Four Freshmen, and we just want to say, Happy birthday to you!
And from 66 years ago today, October 7th, 1956, Raymond Burr, starring in Fort Laramie on this Friday Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.
You know, it's true. Difficult times have a way of focusing us. We have to think about what matters most when it comes to our spending, our health care. No doubt. This is why so many people are joining Medishare right now. Medishare is a trusted way to save up to 50% on your monthly health care costs. More than 400,000 people have already made the switch. It's pretty obvious why, too, especially now during this challenging season with healthcare costs and out-of-pocket expenses going up. Medishare can save you a lot of money. The typical family saves $500 a month. And Medishare is a Christian healthcare sharing ministry that's worked beautifully for 29 years. There are different options to choose from to fit your budget. I'll give you the number here in a second, and if you call, you can get a price within 2 minutes. Maybe now is the perfect time to make the switch and start saving. Here you go. Call 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE. 833-34-BIBLE.
I can tell you that Raymond Burr enjoyed this role, but the thing that Raymond Burr enjoyed the most was getting his big television break, and that's what he was getting with Perry Mason. And because Perry Mason was taking up so much time, he just didn't have time to continue doing Fort Laramie. It was sad. He basically said, what are you going to do? Install a tape recorder in my car and I can record the stuff while I'm driving to and from work? It was sad, but that's it, you know. Radio taking over, being taken over by television. And interestingly enough, Fort Laramie, I don't believe, even got a chance to go to television, which would be sad. But, the show was quite well produced. And, no information that I can see here about them even doing a television version of the show. Okay, let's get to this here. Fort Laramie, originally broadcast 66 years ago today, October 7th, 1956, rather. This episode entitled The Galvanized Yankee.
At the gallop, follow!
Fort-Laramie. Fort-Laramie, starring Raymond Burr as Captain Lee Quince. Specially transcribed tales of the dark and tragic ground of the wild frontier, the saga of fighting men who rode the rim of empire, and the dramatic story of Lee Quince, Captain of Cavalry.
Looks like the freight's at the far end of the train, Gorse.
I expect it is, Captain, because I took care to see the wagons was up front here to make the loading easier.
Well, see they're moved to the back.
Yes, sir. You got the list, Captain?
Yeah. 2 men unloading ought to be enough. Nothing real heavy. Here you are.
Rifles, carbines, revolvers, sabers. Well, it says infantry equipment's here.
Well,
you don't suppose they tucked in a few howitzers? We only brought the 2 wagons.
Anything we can't haul back, we'll leave. Let ordnance do its own work.
The rest of it looks like ours. Bridles, halters, and straps, saddles, nose bags. I'll see to the unloading, Captain.
Right, Gorse.
You there, Captain.
Yes?
You from Fort Laramie?
That's right.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm station master here. You better come into my office and get this business cleared up.
Well, the sergeant's got the billing on the Army equipment we're unloading.
Now, that's not what I'm talking about. Now you're here, I just want you to get 'em out of my station. I'm running a guardhouse, you know.
I'd give a little to know what you are talking about, mister.
Them 2 soldiers chained together in there, and a guard with them. They say they're bound for Fort Laramie.
Private Medford and Private Stringer, that right?
That's right, sir. The little one's Stringer. He doesn't say much. Tall, blond one, he's Medford.
And you're Corporal Benjamin?
Yes, sir.
Well, their orders say Fort Laramie clear enough. You got orders, Corporal?
Yes, sir. Fort Bridger, sir, from Fort Leavenworth. The transfer, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I was to escort Medford and Stringer this far, sir, and contact Fort Laramie to secure them from here.
Well, you made contact, Corporal. We'll take over.
I don't understand, sir. Fort Laramie's 40 miles from here. I only telegraphed 10 minutes ago, sir.
We had a good wind behind us on the way down.
Beg your pardon, sir?
We came to pick up a consignment of equipment. Left Fort Laramie yesterday.
Oh, well, then, what you said about the wind behind
was
you...
a bald-faced lie, Corporal.
Yes, sir. The captain displays a fine touch of humor.
You mustn't encourage me, Corporal. Now, you better arrange for your transportation to Fort Bridger. Good luck.
Thank you, sir. Good luck to you, sir.
All right, on your feet.
Yeah.
Private Stringer?
Yeah?
How's that?
That's me, Stringer.
You stationed at Fort Leavenworth?
I was took there. They give me this uniform, this tall one next to me, a length of chain, then they put me on the railroad.
You're a recruit, then?
If that means that I join up of my own free will, no.
You've been in the Army before?
Mostly I've been in jail. Don't it say on them papers about me?
If it did, I wouldn't be asking.
I've been in the Army 6 days. I heard talk you could make the arrangement on account of enlistments being slow. I could get out of jail if I signed I'd join the Army.
Stand up straight. Now, you get this, Stringer. There's not the time to tell you how much learning you got ahead of you. But you will learn. Starting now, understand?
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. I guess we can take those chains off now.
Is there any reason you ain't asking questions of me, sir?
I don't have to, Medford. It says about you in your papers.
Well, maybe it don't say it all in them papers, Captain.
Says enough. There. You ride back to Fort Laramie in the wagons with the equipment. We don't have horses for you.
We ride free of these chains, Captain?
Free of the chains.
Man alone might jump off of one of them wagons.
Might.
But that ain't your worry, sir?
That's your worry, Medford. Jumping the wagon is desertion. If you walk away, you'll be caught. If you run, you'll be shot. Sergeant, dismiss him.
Yes, sir.
Platoon!
Yes, miss. Captain?
Yes, Sergeant?
I'll see the wagons is unloaded.
Pick what men you need, then take the wagons to the wheelwright. Tell him if he can't fix them proper, to burn them.
Right, Captain. About the new men.
What about them?
Are they assigned to B Company, sir?
They're not assigned anywhere yet, Gorse.
We could sure use them, Captain, starting right now with the unloading of the equipment.
They'll have to be assigned first.
Well, that'll take most of the rest of the day, Captain. There ain't more than an hour's work.
Get someone else to do it, Gorse.
Yes, sir. But there's a reason, Captain, you don't want Stringer and Medford to help?
Yeah? Reasons like you'll be unloading rifles and carbines and 50,000 rounds of ammunition.
I guess when you want to tell me the rest of that story, you will.
And there'll be a right time, Gorse.
Yes, sir.
All right, you two. Fall in behind me. You'll report to headquarters company for assignment.
All right, if I ask a question, mister? Captain?
What is it?
Well, now, I'm brand new to this life, I told you that. I don't even know where this headquarters company's at, and all like that.
I'll see you get there, Stringer. Any more questions?
I got one, sir.
Well, Medford?
When do they outfit us proper?
Proper, Medford?
I mean, I got this brand new blue uniform. When they gonna give me my rifle and sidearms?
When you're assigned?
They mean I should have them firearms in. Just like anyone else.
Just like anyone else, Medford.
Captain Quince.
Yes, Lieutenant?
Are these the transfers, sir?
Private Stringer and Medford.
The Major sent me to see if they're assigned and quartered. He's anxious to see you, Captain.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Sabbats.
Corporal Benjamin's telegram wasn't quite clear, Captain. Something about respectfully urging that we pick up 2 prisoners from Fort Leavenworth.
You get my telegram all right?
Yeah, saying you were bringing 2 transfers from Fort Leavenworth. Now, which are they, prisoners or transfers?
A little of both, I guess.
If Fort Laramie's to become a military prison, I'd like to hear it from someone other than a corporal.
And these men aren't prisoners anymore, Major. For some reason, they sent them as far as Cheyenne under Corporal Benjamin's guard.
You got their papers?
They're at headquarters company, but I read them. Stringer, they let him out of a civilian jail if he'd promised he'd join the Army.
Under that plan to make up for slow enlistments. I read about it when the order came through a couple of months ago. We decided to face that problem when it came up.
It's come up, Major.
Any idea what he was serving time for?
Oh, he gave me the idea. He's made a career for himself being in prison. I didn't ask about specific crimes. I know this. He's never been in the Army.
We can fix that part. The other one, he from prison, too?
Yeah. Camp Butler first, then Camp Douglas.
You're talking about military prisons, Captain?
Union Army prisons for Confederate captives. Private Lacey Medford. He's our first galvanized Yankee, Major.
Galvanized Yankee? Never heard that term.
Well, it has something to do with iron. When it's galvanized, it turns color. Men like Medford, they were captured in gray, sent west in blue.
Well, like you say, Lee, this is a new problem for us.
Well, might not be a problem.
No, but it seems likely enough. Most of your men fought in the Union Army.
That war's long over.
Not in men's minds, Lee. For some men on both sides, it'll never be over.
Major, in B Company alone, we got Irish and English bunking side by side. Same with Germans and French. If we can't put a Yankee and a rebel side by side, we got more trouble than just Indians.
I'm glad you don't consider it a problem.
I said it might not be one. When it is, if it is, I'll treat it as a problem. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
The way you're talking, you've made up your mind to give me Stringer and Medford, huh?
B Company's got fewer men than the rest. Any objections?
No, not from me.
You like challenges, don't you, Lee?
You keep telling me I do.
Well, I hope Medford won't be a problem. But if he is, I'll feel better knowing he's your problem.
Thanks.
What's your impression of him, right off?
Right off, I'd say he's awful anxious to get his own rifle and sidearms. Till I know better, I'm going to figure he's itching to get himself an Indian.
I tell you, Stringer, these private riding lessons ain't going on forever.
Well, I got an idea I could ride just fine if I ever once got on the horse.
Well, you're no young'un. How you been getting around without learning the first thing about mounting?
I ain't been getting around, Sergeant. There's been no call for it.
Will you just sit where you come from?
Sit or laid down. You don't know nothing about me? I mean, before?
Don't know and don't care.
The conclusion of Fort Laramie, Sunday, October 7th, 1956, on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The news from that date comes up next. Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater here on your favorite station, an episode of Fort Laramie, starring Raymond Burr, as it was originally broadcast Sunday, October 7th, 1956. In the newspapers of that Sunday 66 years ago, these were some of the headlines. The State Department made public long secret documents to show how Russia has balked at setting up safeguards to prevent diversion of peaceful atomic materials to weapons production. The documents also disclose that Moscow has offered to contribute only 50 kilograms of atomic material to the International Atoms for Peace Agency, now being set up by the United Nations. The U.S. has indicated it will supply thousands of kilograms. The papers were a series of diplomatic notes which the U.S. and Russia have exchanged in the last 2 years on the subject of President Eisenhower's proposal for a global Atoms for Peace program. In the exchange, the U.S. urged that it and Russia agree on strict safeguards to be written into any agreements covering the delivery of atomic materials to non-atomic nations. The safeguards would be designed to prevent the materials from being diverted secretly for military use. The U.S. is attempting in secret talks in the United Nations to learn whether there is a basis for negotiating a settlement of the Suez Canal crisis. If there is a basis for negotiations, the U.S. will favor the UN Security Council forming a negotiating committee to try to work out a settlement between Egypt and world powers using the canal. Now, the Security Council, with the Secretary of State John Foster Dulles and 5 other foreign ministers taking part, will go into secret huddles next week with Egyptian Foreign Minister Mahmoud Fawzi. If these talks produce results, the U.S. and other Western powers hope that negotiations can be started. If not, the West will have to figure out what to do next. The State Department said today a Huntington, West Virginia woman married to a former Syrian UN official is being prosecuted in Israel under that country's Official Secrets Act. The department named her as 29-year-old Mary Frances Hagan. Her half-brother, Dr. Charles H. Hagan Jr., said in Huntington she was married about 2 years ago to Galeb Kaye, who he said was assigned to the United Nations in New York for about 3 years until earlier this year. Both the State Department and Hagan said they knew little about the charges against her, but the department said it had been established that she was not charged with spying for the United States. President Eisenhower described as loose talk, Adlai E. Stevenson expressed hopes of ending the military draft soon. He said such talk hurts America's security interests throughout the world. Selective service, quoting the president, is indispensable under current conditions if U.S. defenses are not to weaken, saying we must not be, by weakness, invite another war. Eisenhower's statement, the second in 2 days dealing with Stevenson's campaign proposals without naming him, was issued as the Democrat presidential nominee returned to the big business theme in a tour of New England. In a prepared address at Springfield, Massachusetts, Stevenson said that the Republican administration, because it's dominated by the big corporations, will never check the march toward bigness and industrial feudalism. Earlier at Providence, Rhode Island, Stevenson had accused the Eisenhower administration of political cynicism about tariffs and an unfeeling attitude toward problems of the textile industry. Recent official statements added up to a strong indication that the Navy has perfected an atomic depth charge for use against enemy submarines. The Arch was tested in prototype form last year off the U.S. Pacific coast. The test, called Operation Wigwam, was a deep underwater explosion. Neither the Navy nor the Atomic Energy Commission has made any public report on Operation Wigwam, except to say it was a success. An explosion and fire ripped the engine room of the sleek Alcoa tourist freighter Corsair, killing an engineer who had been assigned for only one watch and injuring 11 other men. The 15,000-ton vessel, which cost $5 million, suffered possibly $1 million damage from the blast and fire, which occurred only a few hours before its scheduled 11 a.m. sailing for the Dominican Republic from New Orleans. And Sam Rash doesn't want to move from his farm in the rural Virginia area of Blackstone, but you can't blame him for feeling a little apprehensive. In 1951, an Air Force bomber crashed in a field about 150 yards from his house, killing the pilot. Well, yesterday, another Air Force bomber, a twin engine, cracked up in a cow pasture just 50 yards from his home. The 3 crewmen bailed out. They weren't injured. And those some of the day's top news stories, as reported in the newspapers of Sunday, October 7th, 1956, on your radio, Fort-Laramie, starring Raymond Burr, the conclusion you'll hear next on this Friday Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Saturday on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, Gerald Moore in The Adventures of Philip Marlowe from 73 years ago, October 8th, 1949, The Open Window. A beautiful girl with amnesia visits Marlowe and ends up getting pushed out the window. That's coming up on Classic Radio Theater on Saturday. Sunday, another episode of Casey Crime Photographer from October 9th, 1947, The Wedding Breakfast. And then on Monday, Jack Benny from 1943, when it was still for Jell-O. Actually, it was for Grape Nuts at that point in time. Jack returning from a tour of Africa. And there you go. So that's coming up the next few days here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. But right now, the conclusion of Fort-Laramie, starring Raymond Burr, from 66 years ago, October 7th, 1956, The Galvanized Yankee.
But you're sure looking more like infantry to me every minute.
You mean that Captain ain't told you about me?
Captain Quint's got important things to think about.
Yeah, he sure has. That Medford. I was captain, I'd think about him a lot.
Never mind about Medford. He can mount and ride and dismount with the best of them.
He oughta. He was in the dirty yellow rebel cavalry.
Stand a horse.
You don't care about that? You want a stinking rebel in your army?
Now you listen good to me, Stringer. I got a guardhouse with a fine view of the Laramie River down there. Any more talk out of you, send you right there.
Well, I feel a sight safer in the guardhouse. I ain't been a month out of jail since I was 10.
Well, you just talked yourself right back in again, Stringer.
All right. Fine. Can I talk free about Medford now?
You got anything to say, you say it to me and nobody else, you understand?
Well, you ain't thinking this is no secret. About him being a lousy rebel. Why, he tells everybody in earshot. You know, he's proud of it, right proud.
That's his business.
You fought in that war, Sergeant. How can you stand the thought of him being one of you now?
Maybe because I fought in that war, Stringer. What jail was you sitting it out in then?
Do you think more of him than me?
You're in for a lot of things you won't understand, Stringer. You can think him over in the guardhouse.
I ain't gonna think nothing over. But here's something you can think over, Sergeant. That yellow rebel's got himself a lot of guns, all kinds, rifles to pistols and back again. Think it over. See if you rest easy on it.
Medford's outside, Captain. You want I should send him in now?
In a minute, Gorse. How far has all this gone? Can you tell?
It's all over. About him being in the Confederate cavalry, about how he was took prisoner, sent out here now. This thing about the guns, I hear that all through the quarters, too.
You seen the guns?
No, sir.
I checked ordnance and stores. Everything's accounted for. Ammunition, rifles, carbines, revolvers.
Well, he claims he brought them all in with him. The men say that.
In a haversack and saddlebag?
I'm just telling you what the men say, Captain. You said we was going out in a few days. You figuring to take him along?
That'll be up to him, Gorse.
Yes, sir.
You can send him in now.
Right, Captain. Medford, Captain Quince will see you now.
Sit down, Medford.
I prefer to stand, sir.
Sit down. You got any complaints on your treatment here? I want to hear about them now.
I got a complaint. I'm here.
Then I can't do much about that, Medford.
Neither can I. I want free to choose.
If you were free, what would you do? Go back home?
There ain't no home. There ain't nobody. Men like you saw to that.
Suppose you could get out, maybe stake a claim, maybe get a little farm, store.
It's all took out of me. I don't want none of that. I don't want anything save to be let be.
No, it's not all out of you. The hate's still there.
You bet it is. I get all the strength I got from hating.
Sure, you're feeding it all the time.
Well, there's a lot to hate. This here blue uniform, you can start there. That Spencer rifle you issued me. You gonna let me talk free?
You're talking right free. Go ahead.
Well, that Spencer, I never seen one. I just heard a man about him. We used to figure you Yankees spent one day a week just loading them and the rest of the week firing them at us. We didn't have their like.
No, you didn't. So now you got one. It'll fire 8 shots. Only there aren't any Yankees left to kill.
They ain't nothing but Yankees.
You better get over that feeling, Medford.
I'm gonna die with it.
You don't want to die.
You know that, do you?
You had a lot of chances to die. You could have died in prison if you'd made up your mind to it. You could have died any day out here, starting from the first day you rode in on the wagon.
How you figure that?
You could have jumped the wagon. I'd have killed you. I told you that. And since you're here, you're on the rifle range real regular. The way you've been talking, you could goad a man into killing you.
The men, they've been reporting to you right along?
You've been talking your hate right free.
They tell you about my guns, did they?
Got a lot of guns, have you, Medford?
Well, you ain't searched real good, Captain.
I haven't searched at all. I'm not going to.
If I got guns, you'd have cause to be fearful.
Maybe. Got any more complaints?
What kind of a man are you? I told you I hate your uniform, everything about you, what you stand for.
I'm this kind of man, Medford. I got a cavalry company that's short of men. We're moving out in a couple of days. Now, maybe we don't like the same things, or hate the same things. But we're stuck with each other, Medford.
Well, you taking me on an engagement? Taking me to fight Indians under your flag?
You scared of Indians, Medford?
It's not that.
I'm taking you. You got something you're living for. I want to find out what it is.
We're strung out about as thin as we can be, Captain.
Yeah, the longer they think we can hold them down there, the better. I don't think we'll be able to fool them long.
Got us outnumbered. 2 to 1, anyway.
Sure have, Mr. Syberts. Our horses still secure?
Behind the top of the rise, yes, sir.
If those Indians are smart, they'll circle us. If enough of them to do it.
Have you thought about retreat, Captain?
I've thought of nothing else since we got boxed in. We'll retreat when we can, Mr. Syberts. If we can.
Captain, sir.
Medford?
Captain, can you see their horses from here? There must be a couple hundred of them.
Ones they stole, caught in the ravine down there?
Yes, sir.
What about them?
We stampeded those horses. Them engines would clear out of here in no time.
We'd have to ride a charge down there to stampede them. That's suicide, Medford. They'd pick us off one by one as we rode
Well,
down.
ain't that our only chance, Captain?
Getting killed's not the chance we're looking for.
Yeah, but, Captain, this noise...
Get back to your position, Medford. Now.
Yes, sir.
Hold your fire, men. Hold your fire.
Hold your fire.
I brought your mount, Captain. You saw what he did.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going down there, Mr. Syberts. He might still be alive. That was a fool thing you did, Medford.
I told you. Stampede run them off.
I told you it was suicide.
We was both right, Captain. You gonna court-martial me?
For breaking orders? Or saving our lives?
My rifle. Is it close by?
You want to use it, Medford?
Just you look at it, Captain.
Brass mounted? Your old Enfield, huh?
I carried that at Brandy Station. Along with an old flintlock and a German musket.
Good rifle, Enfield. I got shot with one at Bull Run.
I had to kill something with it, Captain. You said I had something I was living for. You remember?
I remember.
One decent thing. I was captured after Brandy Station, Captain. They caught me running away. Deserted. I had to do one decent thing.
Yeah. Well, you're dying decent, Medford. That's something.
Fort-Laramie is produced and directed by Norman Macdonald and stars Raymond Burr as Lee Quince, Captain of Cavalry, with Vic Perrin as Sergeant Gorse. The script was specially written for Fort-Laramie by Kathleen Height, with sound patterns by Bill James and Tom Henley. Musical supervision by Amerigo Marino. Featured in the cast were Lawrence Dobkin, Parley Bear, Frank Cady, and Paul Dubov. Jack Moyles is Major Daggett, and Harry Bartell is Lieutenant Syberts.
Company, tension! Dismiss!
Next week, another transcribed story of the Northwest frontier and the troopers who fought under Lee Quince, Captain of Cavalry.
Yeah, the rifts between North and South didn't immediately heal up, and they wouldn't for years, just as if many of the problems that we have today won't heal up overnight. It takes time. It takes generations. It really does for a lot of things to change in human culture. That's just the way it is. 66 years ago, October 7th, 1956, Fort Laramie here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. And your name, sir?
This is Groucho Marx. A few days ago, I was talking with the Director of Civil Defense, and he told me some things that I feel everyone should know. That's why I'm speaking to you now. Did you know, for example, that your chances of surviving an atom bomb attack are excellent? It's true, but there's a big if. You must do everything possible now to help yourself and your family. Nobody else will help you. Listen, because this is important. Keep a complete first aid kit handy. Keep a closed container of drinking water in your refrigerator, enough for 3 days. Be sure you have a good fire extinguisher. Take a look around your house right now and pick out the safest spot, away from windows and doors. Make sure that every member of your family understands he is to rush to that safe spot when there's danger. I'm convinced that these precautions are necessary right now, and I hope I can convince you. They're important to your family, yourself, and your community.
And that a lot of that is relevant today. Always be prepared for your own safety and for the safety of your family. All right, thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Would you do me a favor and thank this station and support their advertisers? It's their kindness and courtesy that we're here each and every Friday on your favorite radio station. Now, if you miss a day here, you don't have to miss a show. All of our shows are available for you at my webpage, classicradio.stream. There you can stream our shows on demand. You can also find a list of places where you can download our shows if you want to take them on a trip with you sometime. That's always a good thing to have, something good to listen to. You can learn more about classic radio collecting. You can find our social media links. You can find the way to contact me there. And you can also buy me a coffee. That Buy Me a Coffee helps us acquire classic radio collections from collectors for us to expand what we bring you here on your favorite station. Casey Crime Photographer, a big part of that recent acquisitions. ClassicRadio.stream. Thanks for tuning in. Tell all your friends great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station. Have a great weekend.